Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Good morning, council, staff. I'll read the order. As a result of the order in council issued by the province of Ontario declaring an emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the requirements for physical distancing, the meeting is being held electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act. The procedures for the meeting are as per the town's procedural bylaw and the electronic meeting protocol during emergencies. I will now ask the clerk to conduct a roll call of members present.
Thank you, Mayor Terziano. Deputy Mayor Nancy Alcock.
Present.
Councillor Dan Armour.
Present.
Councillor Jason Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councillor Dion Schumacher.
Present.
Councillor Bob Stone.
Present.
Councillor Brian Thompson.
Present.
Councillor Tim Withey. Councillor Tim Withey.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Karen Terziano.
Present.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Weeb sends his regrets today. He will not be with us. I think this is our first general committee meeting since COVID started. We've been just holding council meetings, so this will be a little bit different. As in the past, I have already assigned councillors to move and second motions, so if you don't care to move or second anything that I call your name out for, just let me know. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcock. It is recommended that the general committee meeting agenda dated Thursday, July 9th, 2020 be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that carries. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Does council have any objection if we move agenda items 5.1 Main Street Streetscape and 6.1 Fish Rock and Jingle Lake to the top of the agenda as Director Hernan has a meeting at 11 o'clock he needs to be at? No objections? Great. So with that, I am going under previous business to the Main Street Streetscape project update, and Director Hernan will share the screen with us. And Director, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor Terziano and Council, and thank you for adjusting the schedule today. It's appreciated. So today we're here to talk about the streetscape again, but we're here to talk about the construction schedule. Not dealing with any design components, if you will, but I would like to just share some pictures of some of the things that we're dealing with to give Council a full understanding of what we are dealing with when we talk the infrastructure. When we talk about the infrastructure, we're not just talking about the pavement, the sidewalks, and the light poles, but we're talking about the water, sewer, and stormwater, which is a district responsibility. And the question's been asked of us, will the infrastructure last another year or two or three, or how bad is the infrastructure? And what we can tell you is the infrastructure has reached its useful life. And will it last another year or two? We won't say it won't, but we say that we're going to start seeing repairs. And I've got some pictures I just want to quickly show you to show you some of the examples of what you can physically see on Main Street when you look at our street lights. By no means am I indicating all street lights are in bad shape, but I will show you some examples of what we're seeing. It's just like the pipes in the ground. They're not all in bad shape, but there is some in real bad shape. So what we're seeing, and it's a great visual, our light posts are deteriorating. They've reached their max useful life. And if you look around town and stop and really start to observe them, you'll see the heads are wearing out at the top. The mounts at the top are all rotted away, if you will, with the concrete, and they're coming to the stage where eventually we're going to have to start to pull some of these down. The most noticeable things you'll see if you look around is the cracking and deterioration we have in the poles. Same problem we ran into out in the Deerhurst area, in the Deerhurst Highland subdivision. The pole on the left is actually on the Main Street Bridge, and you can see it's now letting the weather into it and it's deteriorating. The pole on the right is actually on Brunel Road, and it's seriously deteriorated and cracked and has some serious damage. That pole will likely be coming down very shortly. And if you walk around the main street and look, like I say, they're not all in bad shape, but you're seeing what we're dealing with. And that's just a sign of the infrastructure that's been out in the sun, it's been out in the salt, it's been in the weather for many years, and it's getting to the stage where it's deteriorating. Will all the poles fall down in the next 2 years? They certainly will not, but we're gonna have to start replacing them as we go through this process if we don't get into a major infrastructure project to renew the whole infrastructure. What I'm going to share with you today is how we see the project unrolling, and 3 proposed methods to do this construction project. Mayor Terziano and myself met with the downtown business community through a Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we shared this information. And then I met after that time with the BIA excuse me, executive to share this information as well, and ask them to fill out some surveys. And we'll talk about the surveys results too, because we just got them in yesterday. So I can share some information on what the business owners are saying and telling us. So we've talked originally about this construction project and how we could do it, and could we jump around, and could we leave the downtown and stay out of there in the summertime, and could we bounce around in the 4 different stages of the project. And it has been listed as 4 stages. So stage 1 would be the Main Street Bridge refurb work they have to do up to Burnell Road intersection. Stage 2 is from Burnell Road intersection up to West Street in front of the town hall, if you will. Stage 3 will run us from West Street up to Center Street, where we're getting the additional turning lanes and work done up in this corner. And then stage 4 is from Center Street up to Lorne. And it's been determined through work with the consulting engineering company and the design team working on this. This project does have to start at stage 1, the lowest point, and it has to work its way up the street. That way, if there's any adjustments that need to be done, if there's any problems they run into with rock, they can adjust around it. If we start at the 2 ends and try and connect them in the middle, the concern is, what if we run into a major issue? They've done all the possible preliminary work to determine what's down there, but there's always the unknown. And I think we've just seen that on King William Street, some of the problems we run into with some of the unknowns that we're dealing with. So that's the 4 stages of the project. And we've looked at it, and we basically have 3 options, if you will, for construction. Option A is a traditional construction method, where the contractor will move in and would work in 1 stage at a time, would basically complete 90% of the work in that stage. I say 90% because they always do the top course asphalt as a complete unit at the end of the job. But they would do the work in stage 1, they would lay the pipes, they would work on the sidewalks, they would do the roads, they would get it to a stage where it is acceptable, very similar to what they did at the other side of the bridge, before they move on to the next stage. And the concept with this is this stage has to be at that before they're allowed into the next stage of the project. And then, so for stage 2, they would work through the summer months in the downtown core. And once they're complete there by West Road, they would then move on to stage 3 in the fall, and they would work through till they get to Center Street. With this style of construction, because it is a 12-month project, we know that they have shut down for winter. So in this basic concept, which is your normal construction concept, they would totally shut down for the winter, and they would fire up again in the spring at Center Street, and they'd work their way up to Lawrence Street. We are estimating a completion date would be early July, middle of July, in the 2nd year of construction. That would be top coat of asphalt over the entire surface, if you will, and clean up. So downtown would see construction in this for a full summer season and a partial summer season. Option 2 is what we call the accelerated construction schedule. And what we do is we allow the contractor to use 2 stages at one time. So in stage 1, they would start at the Main Street Bridge. They would start with digging up the road and laying the new pipes. Somewhere around this stage, or this time frame, 2 months into the project, the pipe crew would then move on to the 2nd stage and would just continue working with its pipe and laying its pipe. Well, this is going on. The sidewalk crews, the paving crews, the landscape crews are back in here finishing this up on stage 1. With this sort of a project, it keeps the whole job flowing. It keeps the whole job running. You'll have multiple crews working on it, but they're taking up 2 sections of the road at a time. So In the spring, they'd be working from the bridge to Main Street. Somewhere in that time, they would also be working from Brunel Road up to West Street. Sometime around the middle of summer, they would jump into stage 3, if they will, and the pipe people would continue to work up on the stage 3, and the paving crews would just be following along. This is an accelerated schedule, which means that stage 4 should be able to be reached by the fall in one construction season. We have allowed for some completion work the following spring. If they run into delays, if they run into any problems, they could come in and they could be completed by the end of May, and they would be out of the downtown area for the second season. We would not see them. It would be one big construction season. They'd be using 2 blocks at a time. In any of these scenarios we're talking about, pedestrian traffic would always be maintained. Vehicle traffic would not be maintained in the construction zones. So people could get downtown, they could shop, they could walk on the sidewalks. They wouldn't be on the roadways, if you will, and cars wouldn't be down in those areas. The third construction that we looked at was staying totally out of downtown in the summer months. So with this concept, it was, we would start in the spring at the bridge, we would work to Brunel Road, and then in the summertime, they would actually shut down and they would leave the site, and they would come back in the fall, and they would start at the Brunel Road, and they'd work up to West Road. Then they would shut down for the winter. They would come back in the springtime. They would then work from west up to center. Then they would shut down again for the summer, and they would come back for the fall. And actually in this schedule, there's a good chance they would need to come back the following third year for the completion work. This is the least of our options that we'd be recommending. Each has its pros and cons. This is the most predictable schedule. This is probably the most preferred method by a contractor because he's only working in one zone. He's not keeping multiple crews going. There's not a push. If he runs a little late, he's got a little bit of a cushion over here. He could extend his time frames. Option B is probably going to cost us a little bit more because there's a little more site super work that would be required because they'd have multiple crews working at the same time. It is the most condensed construction schedule, and that is the pro to this one, that we really do feel that they could be in and out in a construction season with a cleanup the following spring, and there is no chance of hopefully getting into the second construction season. I say hopefully because it's like any construction. If they find something that's an unknown in there, it could cause delays. The least favorite and the least recommended is this one where they're in and out and in and out. The problem you'll run into this is a contractor will start here in the spring. He'll leave in the summer to his next job that he's found to keep him busy. If that job runs late, we might not see him back early enough in the fall. So it could push us back, and the problems can just keep repeating themselves. The other problem with this schedule, and it's the most expensive, is you're paying them to move all their equipment on-site, off-site, on-site, off-site, and it would just appear that the Main Street is under construction for the next 2 to 3 seasons. So we explained these different options to the business community, and we put out a survey, and we asked the merchants, the business owners, the people living downtown to talk to us and tell us what they would like to see, and we asked them some simple survey questions. This survey closed earlier in the week, and I just seen the results of this yesterday, and that's why you don't have it in your agenda package. 59 people or businesses took the time to complete the survey. The first question we asked was just a little bit, tell us who you are, so we could get a feel on who was answering the survey. 43%, sorry, were business owners in the downtown. So out of the 59 people that answered the survey, I think it works out to almost 74%, 73% were business owners in the downtown core that were answering the surveys. The question that we asked them is, which method of construction do you prefer? The baseline construction that we talked about, the accelerated construction schedule, or the summer pause, which will drag this out over a couple of years. 39% or 39 respondents, which is 65%, said that they would like to see the accelerated schedule. That was their preferred option. The next question we asked them is, what year would you like to see the construction take place? Would you like to see it in spring 2021 or spring 2022 as a start date? Once again, 38 people that responded, or 65%, told us they'd like to see it next year in 2021. So we are now going to take and compile all this information into a report for council's consideration at the end of the month. Based on the survey feedback that we're seeing right now and the issues we see with the infrastructure, the staff's recommendation is going to be that we use the accelerated construction schedule and that we proceed with a spring 2001 start date. But that'll be up for council's consideration and decision at the end of July meeting. So that's what I wanted to share with council today, and answer any possible questions that they might have. And I will just stop sharing the screen. Happy to answer any questions, Mayor Terziano.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Questions, council? Councillor Withey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've heard from a lot of people on Main Street, a lot of business owners who felt that this survey was sort of flawed and it was almost a foregone conclusion that the town wanted this project to start next summer. I would suggest, in the strongest possible language, that this gets delayed till at least 2022. I think we're in the middle of this pandemic. There's a lot of businesses that are on life support now. And if we undertake this next year, you're going to see, you won't even have to worry about Main Street because it'll be boarded up. So I would, I don't think this pandemic's going to be over. I think we've got another year and a half of this at least. So I don't think there's any reason to push this forward for next season. I think certainly from the people I've been hearing from, whatever the survey said or what have you, there's a lot of vocal people out there that are saying no way for next year. It'll just destroy their businesses. So I certainly won't support getting this going next year. I believe that we've got to take, next year has to be a year without any construction on Main Street. And I think from what I've heard about the infrastructure underlying that yes, anything can happen, but it's not critical to the point of having to get on this right away to avert some disaster. So that's my piece. I just I don't think that I don't think we're making a good move by trying to get this going next year. I think we can wait a year and see what this pandemic does and see what happens to the health of the businesses downtown. We've seen a number of them already closed, and some of them actually are in the throes of closing. So not next year. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm following a little bit of what Councillor Withey said. Like everybody, I've heard and talked to a number of the businesses downtown, significant ones too. And I guess I have two questions. And one is, it is concerning when you hear that some, institutions on the Main Street who have huge concerns about going ahead, who might have been excited before, but no one knew about COVID, and there you go. We're sort of stuck here, and there are real, obviously, concerns. Councillor Withey said that. So two questions. When you and Director Hernan met with the BIA, was there a lot of discussion around the possibility of moving it to 2022, because there are obviously 21 respondents that said that was a better option? And did you have a sense of, the ones that wanted to proceed next year, if they would be comfortable waiting, so that was my first question to you and to Director Hernan. The second one directly to Director Hernan, which is, I know you spoke to this about, it's at end life, right? The infrastructure underground, we need to do it. And I get that. what's the worst case scenario if we leave it for a year and something goes wrong? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What would be the cost implications of that? And I know I don't mean like specifically, Steve. I just a general idea. So those are my two questions.
I'll take the first one, Steve, in that there was certainly some discussion whether 21 or 22 was the preferred year to do this. There were also very few people on that call from the BIA, certainly not the numbers that responded to the survey, which is why we really asked them to sit down and do the survey. I'll let Steve answer the second part though.
The second one is unplanned, unscheduled repairs. And that could happen tomorrow. That could happen 3 years from now. I mean, nobody knows. But if you have a infrastructure failure underground, we know we have problems. If there's a sewer backup, if there's a water line breaks tomorrow, Main Street's closed tomorrow, will they dig it up and repair it? It would be a repair in all likelihood, not a full replacement. So it's unscheduled repairs, which are just costly because it's unscheduled. And to what extent, don't know.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just through you to Stephen. How recent was the survey done, Steve, that we just saw, that you just shared with us on the screen? How recently was that done?
That was just done in the last 2 weeks. The actual survey date was closed July 3rd. And I just got the results this week on that one. So it was in the last 2.5 weeks that it was put out. I think it was June 22nd, 21st. I can get you that exact date. It was out for about 2 weeks and it just closed.
So the numbers that we saw then are in that center are pretty recent then. Of the numbers that responded, what percentage is that of the BIA, of the, I think we saw 45 or so numbers there, businesses, what percentage is that of the entire BIA that would be affected?
I just taking a quick look at the survey. 38% of the people, 38 out of the 59 respondents were members of the Huntsville BIA, they indicated. I'm not sure on the exact membership of the BIA, so I can't give you a percentage of what that is, but I can certainly find that out.
Okay. I guess something of this import, you would think that pretty much everyone that has skin in this particular game would have wanted to contribute their concerns or their thoughts to this. So I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure Councillor Stone can help us with this, but I think there's well over 100 members in the BIA, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, thanks, Steve.
Councillor Stone.
Yes. So I have heard the opposite to what Councillor Withey has been saying. I only know of 2 businesses that would like it pushed to 2022. Everybody else I've been speaking to wants it done in 2021. There's a couple reasons. So we're having a crappy year right now because of the pandemic. And we suspect that the tourists won't flock back next year, especially if there's a spike and everybody's still worried. And so if we push it to 2022, the businesses downtown will have 3 bad years in a row. And that is just unacceptable and unsurvivable for the businesses. So the ones I've been speaking to have been telling me, and the BIA board mostly, have been saying that let's tear the Band-Aid off and get it done. It has to get done anyway. So do it next year and be done with it.
Councillor Armour is next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I get a question for Steve. I just wonder, is there an opinion from the district and when they'd like to start the job? Are they willing to push it off, or they think it needs to happen right now? Thanks.
Through you, Mayor Terziano, the district is willing to work with the Huntsville Council for whatever decision they have decided. They have concerns with the infrastructure, but they're not prepared to say it's going to fail tomorrow. What they've said is if it breaks, they will repair it, and they will follow the lead of Huntsville Council. And if Huntsville Council wants to push it off for a year or 2, they will accept that decision.
Follow up?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to agree with Councillor Stone. I kind of think we should probably rip the Band-Aid off here and plan to go ahead. So in that, if we were planning to go ahead do it next year, Steve, is there a date, a cutoff date that we could say, for whatever reason, we want to move it another year, or do we have to make that decision right now that we're going to go live next year?
Through you, Mayor Terziano, we're at the stage now in the project where we're about to do a pre-qualification call. And that's why we're asking these questions and making sure we're going forward. Council will always have the opportunity. I'm predicting by September, when we see the firm budget, to say yay or nay. You'll always have that option because you're controlling the budget. But that's why we're having these discussions now, because we're getting the tender documents ready. About 80% of the design work has been completed. We want to do the pre-qualifications, and then the first question the contractors, which are going to look to pre-qualify, is they're going to ask when the project is. And we're finishing the writing of the tender spec, which will tell them the timelines that we're dealing with. Are we dealing with an accelerated plan? Are we dealing with a prolonged plan? How are we dealing with it? So we need to start making these decisions now, but council will ultimately have the decision, I'm going to suggest, come September, when we see the final budget numbers, when we do the final tender call.
Councillor Withy?
Thank you. I'm not, as I've said, I'm not on side with this, doing it next year. I talk to a lot of people because they're telling me, in my business, people that I deal with on a business level, about how dire things are and about that they don't want things to happen next year. I don't know who Councillor Stone's talking to, but I'm talking to a lot of people that are really struggling, and I don't see why we want to push this at this point. There's really no reason. The infrastructure, if it fails, we'll deal with it, but it could fail tomorrow. It could have failed last year. I just feel what I heard about the survey is that the people who didn't respond, all I heard was that they thought that town had already made up his mind. This was a foregone conclusion. The survey didn't matter. We're gonna do it anyway, regardless of how they answered a survey question, or not even bother to answer. I think this is a big mistake. I think that we're not gonna have to worry about a Main Street potentially with things. I hate to be the guy, but I'm telling you, this pandemic is real. And you can't just say that things aren't, everybody will be fine and rip the Band-Aid off. There are people in this town now. There are a lot of tourists in this town now. They're going to be here next summer too. And if the businesses that are struggling because they've been hit hard with not having the traffic into their locations, if we do this, you're going to see a lot of places boarded up, and that's. I'm telling you, I just don't think that this is prudent for us to make this push on. There's really no reason to make this push on. In fact, there's a lot of potential downside here if we do it. And this is real. I don't understand why we need to ram this down people's throat. I'm hearing like 100% of the people that I talk to are saying, you do it next summer and we're dead. So that's where I just don't get it. That we got to push this now. To me, it's a ridiculous concept. Thank you.
Councillor Stone?
So there's no good answer. And it is hurting businesses now. It will hurt business in the future whenever we have this done. Councillor Withy asked who I've been talking to. The BIA board has been meeting every 2 weeks, of which I represent council on that board. And their message has been clear. We've been reaching out to all the businesses, and there is no question, as the survey says, that next year and the accelerated model is what they're looking for.
Deputy Mayor Alcock?
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Stone, I think you answered my question, but I did have that, which was, so the BIA board has weighed in, and their position is in favor of the accelerated approach? Or or have they relied on the survey or whatever? I'm just curious if the board actually has stated their position.
So the board has not collectively made a decision. They have not seen the numbers from the survey yet, but discussions at the board have aligned with what I'm seeing today for the first time in the survey.
May I follow up? Thank you for that, Councillor Stone. There's part of me that thinks it's important that the survey was important, and you know, we have a number of results. The meeting that you guys had with 9 is probably not very helpful, right? Because it's not a big group. But it would seem that it would be really important to get the sort of final recommendation from the BIA board before we sort of jump into it. Just to know that, in fact, let's say we decide to go ahead with the accelerated, and then we find that the BIA board, after consultations with their members, develop the position, say, no, actually, we think it would have been better to move it a year. I just think that I would want the confidence to know in our decision that we know what the BIA board believes.
Councillor Stone?
So the BIA board discussed putting a recommendation forward, and I suggested that they do not do that. The point being that we were, the survey results had not come in, and we as a board of 9 or 10 people would be speaking for the whole BIA, which a board does, but didn't want the 9 people on the board to put together a statement when we don't have the reflection on paper from everybody else.
May I respond to that, Your Worship? So I really appreciate that, Councillor Stone, and I understand that. That was pre the results from the survey. And I think if we could go back one more time to the board and say, now that you've got the survey results, is there any discussion around that? Not to necessarily say, and therefore the 9 board members are making the decision, but it might weigh into their opinion. And I just feel strongly, I kind of agree with Councillor Withey. This is such a, well, all of you, we all know this is a major decision. So you know, we've all heard there are a couple of businesses that are going anyway, but there are a couple of businesses that have said, if this goes forward next year, they're not going to make it. We know that. So, and we also know there are a number of businesses that are doing just fine. So I just think it's really important we have all of the most recent input before we make this decision. And I think we have time. We've got a couple of weeks before council. So I don't know. I'm throwing that out to you as our rep, and I'd love your opinion. Thank you.
Councillor Stone?
So yes, now that I have seen the results the first time this morning, it does align with what most of the board, and I say most of the board, and I suspect that they would be happy to put forward a motion to council or direction to council, which aligns with the survey. But I do believe we should take it back to the board and get them to respond.
Yeah, Councillor Schumacher.
So I guess my question to Director Hernan would be, you're bringing back sort of what it's going to cost if we do the condensed version. But from the survey, it looked like either the condensed version was the top choice. Second choice from the survey would have been the pause for the summer months, even though we were sort of recommending A and B. It's looking like B and C are the top 2 choices from the survey. Are you going to bring back numbers for both of those options or all 3 options when we meet as council?
Through you, Mayor Terziano. Yes, I'll be bringing back some costing increases for different construction schedules. It's hard to bring you the exact, but we'll be able to tell you there'll be a premium paid of 5%, 4%. be able to give you some ballpark numbers. But we will be able to show you the pros and cons of each schedule again, and then show you the results. The complete the survey will be attached.
Councillor Armour.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we're beating this up pretty good. I think we should probably wait till the BIA and what the committee comes back and says to us. I think they're the ones that are speaking for the people who are going to be affected the most. And I'll go with whatever they suggest at the time, because I think that's what's important. The last thing you want to see is our streets roll up and be nothing, but we're a very vibrant community, and we've always relied on the public's input for any decisions we make. And I think this is one we have to do.
Steve, I'm wondering if there's any chance to reopen the survey in case there are people like Councillor Withey said they wouldn't bother filling it out because they thought the decision was made. Whether or not we can reopen it and whether or not it identifies unique respondents so that we wouldn't be getting a response from anybody that had already responded.
I don't know about the different respondents. I'm not computer savvy enough to answer those questions. We could reopen the survey. We could even change the survey a little bit. It's kind of hard once you've told people what the first blush is. If somebody now wanted to temper your results, they would just put a group together to temper the results if they didn't like what they've seen. So we'd have to be cautious, and I don't know enough about the technical in the background, but we could open a survey again. We could ask another question. We could do something in that regards.
I think I'm just thinking out loud, but if we were to do something again, and maybe it's a new survey, but maybe it needs to have your actual address, because I think we need to drill this down to just the people who are really being affected, i.e. a business owner on Main Street. So maybe we need to actually request their address as part of the survey.
We could certainly look into that, and if that's the direction of council, we could get it out real quick. It would be a quick turnaround again, because we're hoping to get some decisions through council at the end of July, but we could certainly do that.
Or even still thinking out loud, Councillor Stone, whether the BIA could do their own survey of their membership.
They absolutely can.
That would give us a definite number as well. I thought I saw another, Director Hernan?
Just thinking out loud, Mayor Terziano, because based on the survey results, what we've seen in the infrastructure, I'm quite prepared to tell the BIA that my recommendation to council will be an accelerated schedule in 2021. And then maybe the BIA could do a survey based on what my recommendation to council will be as to whether the members would agree or disagree. And then we leave it to the BIA to truly pool their members and find out. I'm just throwing it out there for consideration.
Yeah, sounds like a good approach, and it's one Councillor Stone could take to the BIA, I'm sure. Councillor Fitzgerald, you had a question.
I did. Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'm feeling that maybe not everyone took the opportunity to fill out the survey, and I'm hearing mixed messages from the business owners for sure about construction. So I really feel that we should go back to the business owners and make sure we have a true representation of the unified owners, whichever way they want to go, before we try and make a decision on this. So definitely support either option of survey, and let's get out there and talk to them ourselves so we're more informed. That's it.
Okay, so this is for information, and we will do some more research, and we will deal with it again at the end of the month. Is that good? Okay, we're going to move on to the Fish Rock and Jingle Lake roads, and Steve, you're still up on that.
Thank you, Mayor Terziano. So I know everybody's seen their agenda package. We've had a letter from the South Wasia Lake Cottage Association in regards to some signage we placed up on Fish Rock Road and Jingle Lake Road. Actually, we're getting more correspondence on many roads. It's very typical in the summertime that people on non-maintained roads are calling us and requesting maintenance. And what we did last year through our operations committee and through Chair Thompson, we brought back a full report, which is also attached to this agenda, listing the different roads and which was non-maintained and which was summer maintained and you know, things like that for clarification and to clean up the signage. We had a huge problem with signage on our roads. A lot of them didn't have any signs, some had the wrong signs. So that's what we brought forth. We never changed the maintenance level on any road. We do have some roads that we want to change the maintenance level on, but we didn't bring that forward and we haven't done that at this time. So we brought that forth to the operations committee. Operations committee reviewed it and approved it, and it was adopted by council ultimately. We went out and actively put the signs back up to make sure that people buying properties knew what type of road they were on. And that has caused some more issues, if you will, where people are saying, wait a minute, I always thought this road was maintained by the town. And in fact, we haven't maintained many of these roads for multiple years. I know there was just another letter I received today, Maw Hill, where they're talking it's been 28 years since any maintenance has ever been done on that road to the best of their knowledge. Well, they are on a non-maintained road, and they're correct. There is no maintenance done on those roads. Non-maintained does not receive any maintenance. More and more cottagers are moving up here. More and more people are using them as permanent residents, and I think we've seen that influx with the COVA. We know that seasonal residents arrived earlier. They've been here longer. We're getting multiple requests to maintain these roads. We're just not able to do that, and that's why they're non-maintained. And if we went in and tried to maintain some of them, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars it would take to put them in any sort of shape. And I'm certainly not recommending that today for the limited use that they're there. So that's why it's here. It's for discussion. It's to remind council that we did review this. We have not changed the service level. We have had many discussions with different groups that if they want to be on a maintained road, they would have to bring it up to this town standards. And if they brought it up to town standards, then the town would look at taking over the full maintenance on the road. We have a whole road that happened a few years ago. The residents there, they spent the money themselves. They did the engineering, they fixed the road. The town maintains that road now. But that's what it's here. It's for discussion. I know Councillor Weeb wanted to have that discussion. Unfortunately, he's not here today. I know Councillor Thompson has been reviewing this and looking at the different roads with us. Just one example we have, and I think Councillor Thompson was on it the other day. We have one road where it's about 3 kilometers long. We call it a road. It's actually a skidoo trail in my opinion. And I don't know how much you would have to spend to just brush that road so you could physically get a truck or a grader down that road. And then I don't know how much material you have to put on that road to bring it into standards. And our capital budget just doesn't allow for that. Obviously, if council directs us to start spending time and energy on these, we certainly will, but it's a service level change. And I caution you, if you just do one road, there'll be another road appearing. I can name a road in every councillor's ward. I'm just looking around the screen where we have people calling us. You're aware of the roads too, because they call about them too. We're getting calls now about Walker's Road, Councillor Dion or Schumacher down by you. We're getting calls about Moss Hill, where, you know, you name it, we get the calls on it. Concession 3 and 4 in New Home, they want them extended. So that's why that report is back on there. It's just to explain what we've done. We've cleaned up some signage. We have having problems with the signage. People think that if they rip the sign down, it means it's maintained again, but that is not the case. And we have not changed the standards, and happy to answer any questions on that or follow any council direction.
Council? Councillor Withey.
Hi, sorry about that. Thank you, Your Worship. This to me sort of falls into, as you mentioned, Steve, that this is what's happening in our community. The community is growing. More people are moving up. More, I'm hearing from, you know, construction clients about roads that they're looking at putting subdivisions on and stuff like this. So I do believe that this is something, as a community grows, that the municipality has to increase service levels to facilitate that as best as we can. And if you know, every year we do a budget, and if we need to put more money into these places because the taxpayers or future growth is looking at new areas, I think that this is something we seriously, I mean, it's a big part of what a municipal government facilitates. So rather than just say to everybody, sorry, you're not gonna get a road, or we're not gonna maintain it. We don't, I think we need to work on this to help facilitate the growth that this town is having and by all accounts will have into the future. So as I've said many times, I believe that where they talk about the population of the district going from 60 some odd to 70 some odd, I firmly believe that's Huntsville going from 20 to 30. So there will be places that are going to be developed, and they're going to need roads, and we're going to need to maintain them. Thank you.
Councillor Alcock.
Sorry. Thanks, Your Worship. I support what Director Hernan's talking about. Certainly, I had my experience in my neighborhood, and the response to the people on the road that had been there for a long time was, if you as a collective, the people that are living on the road, want to bring it up to a municipal standard, then, as Director Hernan said, we'll look at taking it over. I think, to Councillor Withey's point, if we look at all of the potential roads out there and start bringing them up to municipal standard, then that would be an incredible cost. And I understand what Councillor Withey's saying, that we are growing, but those sorts of decisions can come through planning. If there's a proposed subdivision, then we do look at that, and whether it's going to be on an unassumed municipal road, then those are the questions that we deal with at planning. Is that something that the developer then will be responsible for? Or, if it's a case of 2 or 3 houses being built on that road, then the builders have to be aware that that's the road they're on. So it really depends. I'd say those questions need to be dealt with at planning. And there might be situations where it would be in the municipal interest to upgrade the road because there are 50 homes going in or whatever. But I think that the approach now, being consistent with the signage, being consistent with our messaging, and whatever else was in that report, I think that makes sense to me. And we deal with the growth issues when we need to at planning. And so it's anyway, that's my position.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Your Worship. This is really sort of scary in a lot of ways, simply because of, I think, the amount of work and the amount of expense that would be involved if we were to take this on and decide that there are certain areas that we should bring up to certain standards and so on and so forth. I think one thing to keep in mind, like, nobody, I think, on council has ever suggested to someone that it's your choice to live at the end of a 3-kilometer snowmobile trail and build there, and then expect the rest of the taxpayers of Huntsville to bring that road up to some kind of standards. Like, the cost is monumental. It's just ridiculously expensive. And I don't know, I really don't know which route to take on this. I know that Councillor Wiebe is sort of championing this in a sense, and it has to do with a couple of roads in his particular ward, and I appreciate that. But maybe things to look at then, if council is of a mind to go forward with this kind of a process, then I would suggest that, okay, there are certain areas where it might be feasible to bring roads up to summer maintenance standards, right? There's some roads where it's not. Like the one I was on yesterday with Manager Bocock, I mean, it was ridiculous. It would take a bulldozer to get in there, and then a 4-wheel drive truck. we were doing like maybe 20 kilometers an hour, that whole process. I mean, 3 kilometers of that. Imagine this, it's ridiculous. But that was a choice that that person made to live there. And now they want or expect the municipality and all the other taxpayers in this town to help bring their roads up to some kind of standards where we would go in there and grade it. Graders wouldn't even get on these roads. They're too large for some of these roads. So I would suggest that if council is of a mind that to have a look at this, then I think we really have to look at the entire town, look at all of these roads, look at them, and then determine, okay, which ones are suitable for some kind of a level of maintenance, whether it be summer maintenance or year round or whatever. But I think it's a majority, it's a massive undertaking. It would be massively expensive for the town. And I just, I guess I question the fairness of it when someone wants to live, be the only resident at the end of a 3-kilometer laneway, for crying out loud, and then expect the rest of the taxpayers of Huntsville to help bring that up to standards. That's just not fair. So anyway, it's going to take some serious thinking on this. If the council wants to go ahead and even consider this, I think we really have to look at I think we have to look at every single road or every single private road or every single resident in Huntsville that is looking to some kind of level of service. We'd have to look at all of them. And quite frankly, it's a big job. That's all I have to say, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Schumacher.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through you. I mean, I know Director Hernan and I have had a few of these conversations similar to what Councillor Thompson has said. I mean, somebody builds their cottage at the end of the long road, and so now they're calling me and they want it, upgraded to standard. But I've got 2 other calls on that same road where people have built their hunt camps back there, and they don't want that road turned into a thoroughfare. They want it to be that, road that they can just get down with their ATVs or their pickup trucks, and it's viable and fine that way. I do agree with Deputy Mayor Alcock that maybe we do take into some consideration growth and development in those roads that need to be, looked at based on what the expansion has been in that area. But yeah, I mean, there are a number of roads in my area, as Director Hernan's alluded to, that, yeah, I might have 1 or 2 little cottages at the end of 5 kilometers, and it's going to cost a lot of taxpayer dollars to get those up to snuff.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you. I promise to be quick. I just wanted to be really clear that I agree with the report, and I agree with what Councillor Thompson said. I was only suggesting that, if there are cases to respond to the development issue, that I think that probably the appropriate place for that would be planning, and we look at that. But I wasn't suggesting in any way that we go out and look for those roads. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Steve, I wonder if you could just tell us how a private road differs from a non-maintained road.
So usually a private road is on private property. That's usually one of the key differences. And non-maintained is usually on a municipal right-of-way. Whether that was given to the town years ago through a planning process when somebody subdivided 5 lots off, and that was a common thing. They'd give the road to the municipality as opposed to giving an easement to every individual property owner for whatever reasons. And they become private roads. So I'm thinking out North Mary Lake Road, Seeley's Road is a great example of that. It's not on a concession. It is deeded to the municipality, so we own the right of way, so everybody can travel on it to get to their area. That's non-maintained, municipally owned. And but there's multiple examples of private roads in existing developments, condominiums, things like that. And out in different areas off the end of Rose Lake Road, there's a private road that goes in to get to the cottages up on Rose Lake. So the difference being usually a private it's not on municipal land of any description.
So just further to that, I know that if you had a private road and you had a road association and you wanted the town to assume it at any level of service, you would have to bring it up to the standard that the town requires. So on all of these unmaintained roads, if there really were enough people on the road that wanted to bring it up to a standard that we could maintain, that would be on them to approach us individually, I would assume?
That is correct, and it's usually done through the planning. There's a developer right now in the process of bringing up Summerlee Trail. Summerlee Trail is a non-maintained municipal access down in the Utterson area. The developer is now spending the money to bring that up to municipal standards. Once it's up to municipal standards, the municipality will be assuming that road. That has been agreed upon, and then we will take over the maintenance on that road.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Thompson, something else?
Yes, just a question, Your Worship, if I might. And I meant to mention this earlier when I went on and on, but with regards to a non-maintained road at this point, if there were, let's say, for instance, and I'll just throw out a number, there are 15 property owners on that particular road and they wanted to bring it up to standards. Could this be done under a local initiatives program or an LIP? Could somebody answer that for me? If that was an option.
I wonder if, Julia, you might answer that. I take it you're talking about adding it to their taxes to do it. There's Julia.
I believe so. I actually just sent that to Director Hernan that if they did want to do that as a collective, I think that we could add it as a local improvement charge and then add it to their tax bill over several years.
Okay, so this was for information, and unless there's any other questions, we'll let Director Hernan go, and we'll move back to 4.1 on our agenda, which is the Volunteer Muskoka Grant conclusion. And Mr. Oval.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, committee. Sorry, pretty straightforward. We just wanted to let committee know that we've wrapped up the Volunteer Muskoka program. And more importantly, although there was a great deal of interest and well received through the programs that we ran with training courses and workshops, the database itself has gained a lot of traction over 18 months. So it was really just letting committee know and subsequently council that we've been able to transfer that, or that database will be transferred over to the Chamber of Commerce to continue to operate, which will be a great deal of benefit, particularly to Huntsville and all the organizations that utilize volunteers in Huntsville.
Are there any questions? Councillor Stone.
Through you to Scott. So you said the database is going to be taken over by the chamber, but I also read that all the volunteers must reapply.
Yeah, we're still kind of working with our internal department as how to streamline that process. It's really about people signed up for the database when it was run by the town of Huntsville. And now that database is being transferred to the Huntsville Lake-based Chamber of Commerce, there's just some legalities there about people's private information. So we want to make it as easy as possible, but we have to follow the law as well. So.
Okay, and that's for information. Thanks, Scott. Community services, the pool assessment report. Lori.
Jesus. So sorry. Sorry about that delay. Yes, thanks, Council. Today we are here to talk about the pool assessment report. As you know, our pool is 36 years old, and it's been very well maintained, which is a testament to our facilities staff and the ongoing maintenance that they give. As you know, in the report, we are recommending that the pool envelope, the hot tub, the mechanical, change rooms, as well as addressing accessibility requirements be considered. We are recommending that this be done over the next 5 years. As you know, the 2021 capital plan identified the pool to be replaced at a cost of $4,050,000. The current pool assessment that we have indicates the pool could be replaced for $2,450,000. That would include the 3 tanks, mechanical, and accessibility into the pool, but not the change rooms. It would also not include any leisure concept upgrades to the pool. Pete Kingshot and myself are here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, council, questions? Councillor Armour.
Not so much a question, just a comment. I just want to say that was a good report, and I learned a lot about pools through that. So thanks for that.
The one question I had, and I don't know, probably Pete, you could answer this, is some of the really large ticket replacement costs, which seem to be the recirculating pumps and things like that, the $300,000 to $500,000 replacements, they still show a lifespan of 10 to 15 years, though, or sometimes 15 plus. So if we undertook this whole project in the next 5 years, I'm just concerned that are we saving any of those pieces, or?
Actually, no, because we would have to be the piping size and the pumps and everything wouldn't substantiate to the current needs. So we would have to get rid of everything and rebuild from scratch.
So those are some pretty big costs that would be replacing long before their life was over.
At this point in time, yes. One of the biggest reasons why we've said let's wait till 2024, 2025 is for the accessibility issues, because at this point in time, by then we have to bring the change rooms up to the 2025 accessibility standards. So we might as well do the construction on all of it at that point in time.
Right. Just one other question. Has there been any discussion yet about the fact that when we built the Summit Center around the pool and the pool's no longer an outside wall, if that's going to impact our ability to replace that pool?
No, those, sorry, through you, Your Worship. Those costs were with the pool in the exact place it is today. So at some point we would have to, I would believe, the front office, we would have to tear that off the front of the building, and then that's where they would enter in with their equipment to do all. What we have found, since it is internally, we've really saved money because we can save, we're heating the building more than losing. We were with the pool with 3 outside walls and then the roof. We're losing a lot of heat that way, and now we can keep that heat for the rest of the facility.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I was just wondering if I could get some clarification on the capital aspect of this report. We're looking at 2020 capital plan of $4 million, $4,050,000. But then based on the attached audit, a new estimate of $2,450,000. We have a reserve of just over $1 million there. And we're not transferring enough apparently into the reserve to cover this off. What are we looking at for a final cost on this? Is it going to be 4 million or 2.4 million? Just wonder if I get clarification on that.
I would just, until we do a full community engagement, we're not going to really know what the true costs are yet. We may find that the community is requiring more of a leisure concept pool than what we currently have. We may find that there are competitive swimming needs that need to be identified. So this is we're really an estimate by the person who did the audit. What we need to do is start doing more detailed estimates based upon a design that the community agrees upon.
So if subsequent, if I might, Your Worship. A subsequent, if I might, Your Worship.
Yes, sorry, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. So through you to Lori then. So Lori, are we looking then at an estimate of 4 million or an estimate of 2.4 to complete this project in 2025?
Yeah, the estimate is 4 million was really just a placeholder in our capital budget. Right now, we do have an estimate of 2,450,000. I am not confident that that is the exact number we're going to land on, because without a design concept which drives the costs, I can't say confidently what that is.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a very quick question through you to Director O'Brien. Do we have a sense of when we'd start the public consultation, the community engagement?
We've outlined an 8-phase process in the report, which outlines when we be doing some of that public consultation. So I would suggest sooner rather than later. But I think what we should do is bring back in 2021 where we would be identifying the reserve budget. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know if you are. Okay. Bring back a 2021 budget for the 2,450,000 and put some contingency in there that allows for some design deviations of a small amount. And then basically we would know the full budget amount that we have to work with, and then, you know, engage a pool architect to begin a public engagement process with our community.
Councillor Schumacher.
Through your worship to Director O'Brien, I appreciate the report. Well thought out and well done. And I do appreciate, I know that there are things that probably can hold off for 10, 15 years, as we have seen in the report, but I do really appreciate and want to emphasize the fact that we do need to be up to standard for 2025, which is to meet the AODA compliance. And I believe we have a community that probably would appreciate the accommodations that could be made to make our pool accessible and up to those standards. So I get that if we don't touch anything, I get we're grandfathered in, we don't have to, but the minute we do start to do some, you know, renovations, we do start to mess and change things around, we might as well do it. And we might as well, as you've said, get the feedback from the community. What is it gonna take to make it user friendly? And let's do it and meet the AODA standards for 2025.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
I promised last comment, which is I just concur with Councillor Schumacher. I agree. I thought the report was really well laid out, and it makes sense, like for all of the reasons that were just stated. So I just wanted to concur.
Okay, great. And that's for information. And I'm sure we'll be talking lots more about this before too long. Is there? Oh, hang on. I made a mistake. There is a motion. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Councillor Schumacher. It is recommended that the Aquatic Center retrofit report, as outlined in report CS 2020-13, be presented for the 2021 budget discussions, outlining a project timeline with a completion date of 2025 and funding recommendations. Any further questions? All in favor? That carries. Sorry about that. That's why the clerk's here, right over there to my left. Community Services Path to Recovery, Algonquin Theatre. Is that Lori or is Matt here? Hi, Matt.
I'm here, Your Worship. It's great to see everybody. It's great to be back. On March 13th of this year, the Algonquin Theatre was closed due to COVID in our first in almost 17-year history. On March 14th, we were very much looking forward to having an almost sold out event in our theater. Since that time, the theater has laid off 5 staff members, 2 full-time and 3 part-time. As of this morning, some more stats have come out through the Ontario government. Currently, through this, 86% of people are still not willing to be involved in large groups or 25 or more. In regards to indoor events, only 13% are willing to attend. I had the opportunity, Your Worship, to attend a group called TO.live a few weeks ago. I was asked to speak at this event. At that event, there was a number of large theaters, but more importantly, small privately owned theaters throughout Ontario and mainly Toronto, including community theaters. At that time, during the presentation, we were informed through a survey of all members that they expect 96% of privately owned and some municipal theaters will simply not reopen. What does that mean for us as a theater, as the Algonquin Theatre? It's time for us to diversify. Theaters as we know it will not be the same for the foreseeable future. Lucky for us, we are the artists, we are the creative types, and we're always looking for new ways to promote and give the community dynamic new ways. One other interesting stat that I wanted to share with everybody that just came this morning, I had the opportunity to speak with Live Nation, a group of Live Nation, who is globally known as the world's largest music producers. Had the opportunity to speak with a few people there. They are, as we stand right now, they do not think any venues or any concerts of 25,000 or more will happen. They are now pivoting strictly to smaller venues for filming virtual concerts like ours. So again, what does that mean for us? We have not only producers, musicians, artists, dancers, theater people, the list goes on, that are critically impacted with these theater closing. Sadly, with no time to reopen at all right now. I have attached in this report for your review an Algonquin Theatre Guide to Reopening. The guide is in depth and specific to certain areas. This came about through another group that I am currently working with, and some verbiage may not be the same. And this guide is for anybody from 100 people in attendance all the way up to 5,000 or plus. Mayor Terziano, I'm here to take any questions, please.
Thanks, Matt. Questions from council? Councillor Stone.
Matt, I'm just wondering, was the stage replaced during the shutdown?
Through you, Mayor Terziano, that is in progress actually right now, Councillor Stone. The order has been placed and we're expecting it to be installed between the July and August council cycle.
Councillor Alcott.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Matt, nice to have you back. I did read the report, but I was just curious from what you just said. So are you currently working with those producers or others to do exactly that? Maybe have taping or filming of concerts for the virtual world? Is that what you're sort of looking at? And
through you, Mayor Terziano, that's exactly what we're looking at. Deputy Mayor Alcott, I've had the opportunity, it is daily and it's multiple times daily that I'm speaking with not only our current producers, which provide anywhere between 5 or 6 performances a year in our theater, to 1 or 2. The reason we're looking at this is not only we can start kind of at ground level to start supporting our local artists. As we all know, the list is endless. One of the most depressing announcements that I've had to make this year was cancellation of concerts on the dock, which the first one was supposed to be yesterday. And that is strictly supporting our local artists, averaging between 250 and 500 plus people every Wednesday, as you know, in the summer, and supporting the local restaurants around. So with supporting these artists, Deputy Mayor, that's the first step. The second step in filming these virtual concerts is getting us ready for the introduction of live music events. They have slowly started in British Columbia, where they're at 50 people. And again, there's guidelines around that. But what I'm saying and what I'm telling our producers and our local musicians is we have to be ready for the time when we are allowed to have people back in the theater. Mind you, I'm not saying we're going to have 408 sold out seats to start. We're going to start light. We are going to start light, whether it's 50, 60, 70 people, but we need that practice. We need to support this. We need to start with our community having the confidence to come back. I deal with box office calls every day. An interesting stat in regards to our amazing community is that we're still over 80% of the people want to keep their tickets. They refuse to get a refund. They believe in this theater. They believe in what we're doing. They know it's going to come back. They don't know how it's going to come back, but they appreciate it. It is going to come back. So I don't know if that completely answered your question, Deputy Mayor Alcott, but it's something that we have to start doing.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Matt. Matt, thank you for the report. Question I have for you, and I really applaud the approach of virtual shows and so on and so forth. Is there a way, or do we expect to generate revenue from these virtual shows, or could you maybe expand on that?
Through you, Mayor Terziano. Initially, no, Councillor Thompson, it wouldn't be a revenue generator at first. It would be a slow introduction into having people, just simply having an artist perform on stage and performing and giving them the chance for people just to get out, sit at home or on their dock, wherever they are, to watch a concert. From that next step, we can start looking at the opportunity, the potential opportunity to start selling tickets to these concerts, but it has to be a slow, gradual step. Virtual concerts had a slow start, but they are coming back. But at this time, no, it would strictly be in support of our local theater and in support of our amazing clientele that are out there. And I must also tell you, I had one call from Alberta yesterday and 2 from Vancouver for people that normally summer here and that are avid theater goers. And that was the one question I was asked. When are you guys going to do some virtual concerts so we can see and get used to theater? So.
Matt, I assume you're working on a revised fee and charges bylaw in order to go along with this reopening plan?
That is correct, Mayor Terziano. I'm working with Director O'Brien on that as we speak. It's something that I don't want to give a date to when we'll have it, but it's something that we are working on.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Alcock, last word to you.
Okay, thanks. And I apologize. I just don't know where to ask this question. I didn't see it in the report and maybe I've missed it. The reopening of Partners Hall, I understand we can't have shows in there and all of that, but I'm sort of confused whether or not we've told the Art Society whether or not they can hang pictures in there. And I know there's a whole process with that too. So any update on that would be very helpful for me.
Through you, Mayor Terziano. Deputy Mayor Alcott, I've had the opportunity to speak with the Limberlost people who have got all of their art at their Candidate Summit Center. We can't forget about that. We have a great deal of art in there. And also had numerous discussions with the Huntsville Art Society, who do rent the wall space in Partners Hall. Currently, the lights are on in Partners Hall. People are able to go in and view the art at any time. We are going to be speaking again with the Huntsville Art Society this week and early next week on coordinating specific times and the process of how they can come in and art can be removed and installed. So that's that. The Limberlost people out for Canada Summit Center, they're in no rush. They're in no rush, so.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Next, we're on to the flag raising. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Withey and seconded by Councillor Armour. It is recommended that committee approve the amendment to Appendix 2 of the Town Flag Protocol Policy to include the addition of Huntsville Terry Fox Community Run to the community flag raising list of pre-approved organizations. So we have pre-approved organizations in our policy, and the Terry Fox organizers have asked, because of the fact that Terry Fox Run will not actually happen this year except virtually, that we raise the flag for a week. And they've also asked, which is not part of this resolution, but they've asked that they can put out the Terry Fox mileage markers in the boulevard between Flag Park and Independent for that week, just to highlight the fact that it is still a run happening called One Day Your Way, and to give their sponsors their mileage. And our bylaw department and building have said they're fine with the markers going out for the week, so the flag would fly for the week as well, and that's September 14th to 20th. So any questions on that? All in favor? That carries. Financials. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Stone and seconded by Councillor Thompson. It is recommended that the projects identified in Corp 2020-30 Appendix A be approved, and further that staff be directed to proceed with implementing each of the items identified, and further that any projects not initiated or completed by December 31st, 2020 be canceled. Julia, do you want to speak to this one?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. So we did receive some money last year, about $600,000 from the provincial government, and it was to support small and rural municipalities' efforts to become more efficient and reduce expenditure growth in the long term. So the senior management or the senior team did get together, and we looked at a list of projects that we felt would fit into this. We also considered kind of 3 criteria: whether the project be completed substantially by the end of this year, so over the next 6 months, whether it's been identified in a capital plan, strategic plan, or other business plan, and also whether the project will create an efficiency so that it's in line with the intention of this money. We did have 4 projects that were already approved to be spent from this money. That was the work order and service request system. So that was back in 2018. Or sorry, 19. There's also a one-time IT security service. And just one item to note, I do have that marked as complete, but it is actually in progress for the 11,000. The inline power investigation, we've canceled that project. We're not going forward with that. And the planning and GIS technician, we had that in the budget for 2020 as well. So I'll go through the list of projects. So it is on the back of your at the end of that report. So the first 3 that we have there are the ones that were previously approved by council. And you'll see there are quite a few projects that are in the Operations and Protective Services division. And these are all projects that we feel will create some efficiencies in that department. So I won't spend time on the first 3, but I'll let Steve go through the next one, so that if you have any questions as we go through, he can answer them.
Okay, Steve?
Thank you, Julia and Mayor Terziano. So I'm just pulling the screen up so we're all on the same one. So we've suggested multiple projects down here at Public Works, if you will, and in the fire department that will offer efficiency. So the first one that we were looking at was $16,000 for a vehicle scan tool. Basically, all our trucks are computerized, as you know, your cars are too. And every time we run into an engine problem or a not running right problem, we have to send the vehicle out to have the electronic scan to get the codes out, so we know what we have to do to repair the vehicle. So we spend a fair amount of time both getting the trucks there, pulling them back, and paying contractors to do the vehicle scanning. So this is a $16,000 tool that we'll be able to read the trucks ourselves and see what's happening with them. The next item we have on the list, and maybe I'll just go through them if that's all right with you, Mayor Terziano, and then take questions, or do you want to take questions as we go?
Why don't you just run through them quickly and then we'll go to questions.
Okay. Next item we have on the list is a chipper. We do not own our own chipper down here. Every time we're out dealing with windstorms and brush, we're spending multiple truck time hours just trucking brush back to the yard here. It's not an effective and efficient use of labor. The last big windstorm that came through, if you looked at how the district and Lake of Bays and everybody else dealt with it, they simply pull up with their chipper, they chip the bush, and in many cases they can put it right back into the ground as mulch. They're not handling or moving it for $50,000. The next item is a water tank. It's an insert tank for the back of a dump truck. We do not have a water truck down here. We traditionally use old hand-me-down fire trucks. The fire truck we have now is on its last legs. This will give us the opportunity to wash bridges, flush culverts, water down roads when we have dust problems, or apply our own dust suppression in future years. So it's an insert for the back of a truck. It's not another truck itself. The broom mower, we do have broom mowers on our capital budget for next year. This is you'll see them out working the streets now. They're mowing down the roadside brush. With the track that we're buying for the winter snow removal, this is an attachment that'll fit on that machine. It'll allow us to do more brushing, more mowing, to keep the roadsides down, to keep the brushing down, better sight lines, better drainage lines, and all the great things like that. So that's what that tool is. If by chance this doesn't get approved today, it's certainly back on the capital list for next year for discussion again. The next item, $45,000, is basically portable traffic lights. Right now, as per Book 7 health and safety rules, anytime we're working on the road, we have to put 2 flaggers out to direct and control the traffic. The new and modern way is with mobile traffic lights. They pull up on a trailer. I'm sure you've seen them at bridge projects. They're used all the time. You can set them up. You can set them up for the traffic conditions you're dealing with. It frees up 2 people. So you're not standing there working the stop and go panels all day. We can put more equipment, more people back working on the job site, and less people controlling craft traffic as these things would be automatic. They'd be able to do it, and we just take them home at the end of the day and reset them up in the next job site. The next item that we're looking at here is $5,000 for Station 1 bay lights. When Station 1 was built, that's the main fire hall in town. LED lights, energy efficient, was not a norm at that time. It was back in 1995. We're now looking at an upgrade to those lights to bring them into LED. Just like most of the other town buildings have been done, the bay lights have not been done there. And it's $5,000 to bring that up to standards. The next item of the fire hall is the training grounds. As you know, we're always improving the training grounds. The Ontario Fire College this year is totally shut down due to COVID, which is once again adds the importance of your own training grounds to keep your people up to date and current. Once again, the more work we can do on our training grounds, as you know, we're slowly plugging away on that to make a state-of-the-art facility. Better trained staff, better trained crews, better results when they're out working in the public, obviously, and a reduced cost because we're not sending people out of town for different styles of training. What they're proposing down there is an addition to their, we call them the burn cans, the live fire burn cans we have down there. It's the next evolution. It's the next step in that project. So firefighters can be properly trained how to enter buildings in a safe environment. The next item we have on the list there is $8,500 for pallet racking. We have a large storage building down here with 14-foot ceilings, basically to allow us to double our space, our storage space. We're looking to put some industrial storage racks inside that building. It'll allow us to take all the non-seasonal equipment and put it up so it's out of the sun. It's not getting degraded by the sun. It keeps it clean. It keeps it well maintained. It reduces down on maintenance costs moving forward. So it's basically a racking system which will double the space in our storage garage. The next item we have is $10,000 for a trial of 4 solar powered streetlights. I know we have removed some streetlights in some areas. We still require streetlights. We've done a lot of work with the LEDs. We have some streets in some rural areas which we still require lights, and they haven't been converted to LEDs. And we're looking at a solar light. I know they were tried a few years ago with mixed reviews on Center Street and up by the Waterloo building. We've been looking at them again. We've been looking at how they've increased the technology on them. We're not ready to jump in and start a full replacement project, but we're thinking that this is the way that the future is going, and it's time for us to try 4 more of these. So we're recommending 4 solar lights. We can put them in strategic locations. We can really track them on the winter hours. From all the reports we're getting from the other areas which are starting to use them, we're hearing positive results, but we'd like to try some to see how they will work up in Muskoka, and is this we want to go? Obviously, the savings there would be an energy cost moving forward. Those are the items I had, and I will pass it back to Julia for the last few items.
We'll go to questions for you in case you have to leave anytime soon. Any questions on the ones that Director Hernan has outlined? Councillor Thompson.
Yes, I do have a question with regards to, first of all, I want to encourage council to approve, especially, well, all of these for sure, but the item number 7, the boom mower. I had a sort of a lesson the other day on how that might work, and I think it would be really, really critical to our future operations. Save a lot of time, save us a lot of money for a one-time expenditure of $85,000 on that particular, and it fits very nicely with the tractor that we've already ordered for snow removal for this winter. The other one, through you, Steve, through your worship to Steve, with regards to the water tank insert for the dump truck. This year, as you know, we had a very early spring, and so we had, before we had our dust suppression out on some of our gravel roads, we had some dust situations, and I know I talked to you about it, and I talked to Kevin about it as well. Is this an item we could use? Say, a perfect example, I think, is Medill Church Road, where once you turn off into Medill Church, it's into the yard, it's a dirt road past that. Well, they were suffering badly from dust this year. And would this be an application, Steve, where we could use that particular item to say help suppress the dust for those people or others that are suffering from this on dirt roads?
Through you, Mayor Terziano, it certainly is what we've talked about here. Right now, because we use a contract service to apply our dust suppression, we have to get all our gravel roads ready, which takes us about six weeks to get them ready for dust suppression. Then the contractor comes in and puts it down for about 4 days, and they're done. We'd be able to store the material here. We have the big storage tanks here. We'd be able to put our own dust suppression down on roads as they're done. So rather than a 1-week dust suppression activity, you would see it spread out over the 6-week process. Once a grader has the road ready, the dust suppression could go down immediately. And then if we had trouble areas, complaint areas where we had to go back and do a reapplication, we'd be able to go back and do a reapplication or a top up later in the season. We do get some corners where we get more dust because of heavier traffic. We'd be able to look after those. Presently, the way it is now is we'd have to bring a contractor in with the equipment out of the Lindsay, Peterborough area to do a small application, and it's just not feasible.
Councillor Schumacher.
I would definitely agree with the water truck, especially through you, Mayor Terziano, to Director Hernan. I know I've had a few calls out Atwell area where they're doing construction on the bridge, which then causes a little more dust and build up as vehicles are kind of going in and out. We'd be able to then go in and sort of assess those areas and maybe do a little more dust suppression with that water truck.
Councillor Armour.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Good list you had going, Steve. I'm surprised that we don't have anything to do with the solar speed signs that you see around the community nowadays. Was there any thought put into that as being one of the projects?
So through you, Mayor Terziano, we were, as per the grant, we were to look for efficiencies. And although I agree that the solar speed signs are a great project, it's not an efficiency for the municipality. I couldn't point back and say, how are we going to save money? How are we going to improve services? How are we going to do this? I'm not belittling the project at all. It's just when we looked at it from a criteria, it didn't meet, I felt, the warranted to be put on this list. And I do remind you, we do have the speed trailer that we run around on a weekly basis. It's throughout the community. Some people say you get better response when you show up with a sign, a trailer for a month or so and then leave. Because I think some people are getting quite used to the signs, which are permanent, and I'm not sure they still have the same effect.
Councillor Withey.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. I've got a couple of issues. I don't like the motion to approve this completely like this. I think as we're hearing, there's specific items that we're maybe not good with or not. I do agree with Councilor Armour. I think these speed signs are effective. You can see a lot of them around Muskoka Lakes. I think they're as you know, qualified on the list as the traffic lights as far as these things. I understand it's money that you know, we're supposed to spend. I also understand that nobody's coming in to sort of audit that closely on what exactly we're spending on. Further to the traffic light, the solar traffic light item, is there no, I mean, it's sort of on this list as, you know, to check them out and test them out. Is it necessary to actually buy them? Can we not get that information from other municipalities that are using them rather than put it on this list just to see if they're good or not? I mean, there must be information out there on these kinds of things. Another thing, and I know it's not part of your section, Steve, it's further down the list. I see the reappearance of the issue of doing the community hall security, which, if my memory serves me, I think council rejected that option. Councillor Fitzgerald, I know you had something to say about it at the time. And I'm curious how these things sort of, the council decides against that in a previous meeting, all of a sudden reappear on a list like this. Anyway, those are my comments. I won't be supporting this motion as it's written. I don't think I want to do this sort of as a complete list that we're approving because there are issues, as we've heard, with some of the things. Thank you.
I'm not sure if there was actually a question in there, but you confused me, Councillor Withy, on the traffic signals and being something that we're just testing. It's a piece of equipment we would be buying to use. Is it not, Director Hernan?
The traffic signals is a piece of equipment we use on the job sites. You're correct. The piece that is the solar is the street lights. And I think maybe that's what Councillor Withy meant is the solar street lights.
Okay.
And we have heard from the manufacturers that they're the latest, they're the greatest, they solve the problems. There is one installed down in the Bracebridge area. We've gone down, we've observed it, but we've never just observed it through winter condition. And that's usually when you don't have enough daylight and we're wondering about the solar panels. So we're thinking, do we actually install some and try them and give them a full season to see if they truly are the fix or are they not? I think we all know some of the problems we've had with the solar streetlights we use now for the sidewalk up by the Waterloo building. They're hit and miss and they're limited use in the wintertime.
Okay. Are there any other specific questions? Go ahead, Councillor Withy.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. I apologize for that. I just was wondering, rather than take the step to invest, I mean, we could probably find the information out by other people that might already be using them, and then decide there rather than spend the money just to see how they work. Thank you.
Are there any other questions specific to Steve's section? Otherwise, we'll move into community services. Julia, is that you, or is Lori going to take us through that?
I can touch on it. If there's any questions, then Director O'Brien could answer that. So with the community services recreation master plan, you'll probably remember there was also a modernization intake 1 that was done last year. And that was the project that council did approve to go forward and have that as what we were applying for. We weren't successful for that grant. So we're bringing that forward again to complete that master plan. The next one is with the electronic entry, and that's for the Port City and Anderson halls. This is a fairly rough estimate, and of course, for any of these projects, we would go out if required for quotes and tenders if needed to further refine the amounts. But just to explain with those ones, this did come forward before for budget, and it wasn't passed. So we have brought it forward again. This is for 4 doors for each of the halls. So if we looked at it, it might be better just to go down to 2 doors for each of them. So this is having a keypad actually on 4 of the doors for each. So that's for that. So that price would go down substantially if we did look at just 2 doors. Part of the reason that we're looking at this from an efficiency point of view is because we can schedule the unlocking and the codes right from the office. So a staff member doesn't have to drive down and physically hand out the keys. So that was how we looked at that from an efficiency point of view. The next one is the planning applications online. So as you know, we're looking at the building department. We had an RFP that we put out earlier this year, and we're in the process of awarding that, or we have awarded that. And we're looking at adding on some planning applications to that while we're doing this project. And the last one on the list is $75,000 for touchless toilets, faucets at town-owned facilities. So this is for all the town facilities. And this would improve, staff time to go out there and improve health and safety.
Okay, questions on the last part? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Julia, for explaining some of the items there. I think the reluctance of the electronic entries at the halls was purely budgetary. In the when we went through the budget process, I think that if we can offer this kind of thing to the community members, and which eliminates the need for them to go into town to get a key to use those particular facilities, it's of benefit to the community, and I would support it. I'm curious though, where do we come up with a number for $75,000 on water and reducing virus transmission by touchless toilets? And can anyone answer that question, where that number comes from?
I'm not sure if Pete's on the line, but I did speak with Pete this morning, and he is fairly confident in that number. He thinks that that's a fairly firm estimate on that. Of course, if we're going out, we would get quotes on that for sure. But he is fairly confident in that estimate. So that would be for the Canada Summit Center, the Civic Center, all the halls, and probably the Medill building and the Medill building as well.
Okay, thank you. I just had one more follow-up question regarding the electronic entry. Have we a plan in place to who is going to monitor that and how it's accessible by the public? I know there's user groups that need into the hall sometimes, and you can't get in.
I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure if Director O'Brien has that or not, or if that's something we could bring back.
I'm happy to have it brought back, but I would like an efficient and easy way for the users to definitely get in contact with someone in a very short period of time to gain access to the halls. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Julie, just one, you didn't mention the library, I don't think, for the touchless faucets and toilets. Would that building be included as well?
So we did have a discussion on that, Pete and I. So he had included the library as part of that, but we'd have to look at whether that would come out of their contribution or not.
Okay. It's just that it's a very public building, and if part of this is for safety as well as efficiency, I think it should be considered.
Okay.
Councillor Schumacher.
Would we, and I mean, it's not in this, but if we're looking at touchless faucets and stuff, would we eventually go to sensors for lights where you walk in and then people don't actually have to flick the light switches as well?
Yeah, I know some of our facilities have them. I know at the Summit Center, there are certainly certain areas you walk in that it's automatic lights, but I don't know. Any discussion on that from the staff?
We didn't have any discussion on that, but we can bring back more or follow up on that.
So if that's the end of the questions, I think Councillor Withey, if I can put you on the spot, you said you wouldn't support this in its entirety, but I believe that it's only the street lights and the hall doors that you are opposed to?
I just, I would rather have a little more time to look through the entire list and maybe come up with other things that maybe aren't on the list rather than just doing a blanket motion right now. It's not specific to like specific items, but I just the nature of the way that this is like we're approving it all. I'm not happy with that, the way that's written. So that's why I think we can, I mean, there doesn't seem to be a real rush to get a lot of these things. If we can even, look at stuff if it is a rush right now, but just the way this is written as a blanket approval for everything on there, and that's not what I'm happy with.
So I think, as we noted earlier, this is a general committee, so whatever we do today won't be ratified until the end of the month. So there would be time to suggest changes to this list in the next 3 weeks until it's ratified, correct? Madam Clerk, I'm looking at you.
That is correct. I know Councillor Whitney noted that he wanted time to think about it. What we could do today, I'm just going to throw this out there. Julia will give me heck. But we could actually take the schedule piece by piece and move and have a mover and seconder for each piece in the table and go through it one by one. And then at the end, when you were happy with what was left at the table, we do the motion on the floor in its entirety. But that's totally your call.
I'm not sure we really need to break 20 or so items down to individual items. I think that we have the time to look at the list and make changes to it. The other part of the report did say that if there's any urgency, that these projects need to be completed by the end of the year. And we're already into the 7th month of this year. So I think that everybody would have time to come back to council and question any item on the list or bring forth any new item that they'd rather change out, but I think we can still approve it as one today. Councillor Thompson, I did see your hand though.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I would strongly suggest that we go ahead approving this today and then ratifying it at council. There's nothing frivolous on this list in any of these particular items, and the budget is there. So. And some of these are time sensitive, so I think let's approve it today and then ratify it at council. Thank you.
Okay, council, you've heard the resolution. You've seen the attached list. This is general committee. All in favor? And that carries. Opposed? That's noted. Okay, still with financial reports. The COVID 2020-11 financial and town services update. Julia or Reva, or both?
So what we brought forward is another update on the financial forecast to the end of the year as we move through with the changes for the impact for COVID. So this is, we brought back several. Last one we had provided an estimated savings of about 1.2 million. But we did note at that time that we would be bringing services back online, and when that happens, that would decrease as we move through. And as you know, that we're now in phase 2, stage 2 of the reopening plan, and it's expected that we're likely going to go into stage 3. So we're seeing a lot of things reopening. So what we've provided is a revised financial update, which is in Appendix A, which estimates a forecasted savings of about 822,000. So these are things that we know of at this time that have already taken place. So that's at the time of writing up this report. And I just want to go through what's included in that so you understand the change between the last one and this one. So for staff changes, we did have several vacant positions that we did hold vacant for some time, but now we've either filled them or are going to start filling them. And those have been outlined in the report. We also, in our last report, had added a staff member for the town reopening to be screening for people coming in the building. Now that we've opened with a passive screening, we've taken that position out. Muskoka Heritage Place, I think a press release just went out during this meeting saying that, letting us know that they are reopening. So those costs have been added back into the forecast. The aquatics, right at this time, we only have in there the summer program. We don't have the full aquatics coming back, so that's been included, just the beach programs. For recreation and leisure, we don't have summer camp in there, as you're aware of. That has been canceled for the year. And for the Algonquin Theatre, we don't have any, we're anticipating that there's no shows to the end of the year still at this time. So we have left that at the original forecast that we had. Just to note as well, it's likely that the playgrounds will also start to reopen soon. There won't be any incremental costs associated with that, but that still is to come. Also, when we did our original forecast, we included savings from the library overall from their allotted amount that they get for the year. So we have actually changed that. So we did have a savings in there before of 141,000 in the original forecast. We've changed that so that it's status quo to what they were originally budgeted for their net levy. And just to note, the reason that we've done that is just because we need to bring back a full forecast for that. And just with some issues with the CEO, we just had to, not issues with him, but just some timing. We just have to bring back a full report on that, and he'll be bringing that back to say what his anticipated forecast is to the end of the year, specifically for the library. So we've just held the line for that. So that brings us to the 822,000. So if you look at the second page of the report, we have a summary that kind of outlines what we think the estimated savings are going to be. So starting at the 822, so we've also provided information on the arenas. So if we start bringing the arenas back in September, we're expecting a cost for that to be about 200,000. So that would include opening the building as well, the Canada Summit Center. There's the indoor facility incremental cost. So that's the ALC that would be starting to rent that in August. Outdoor incremental of sort of the halls, that's about a revenue of about 6,000, and that would be starting those rentals back in August. And outdoor facilities, that would be a cost of about $3,800, and that's the rentals for Conroy Park, Pittman's Bay, and Macaulay, and other parks. So that brings us to an overall forecasted savings of about 600,000. So those are things that we are expecting to come back online. We haven't had any formal approval for that, but just to provide some estimate. If we were to open the pool back in September, we'd probably reduce that number by another $150,000 for the cost of that. And if the theater was open, it would be about another 42,000. So that would bring us down to about still in that savings of about $425,000 overall. So that's what we're predicting. We will bring back a Q2 report in August that will have another update.
Okay, questions from council? That's good. I guess my only question would be is I would have been looking for the Q2 reports in July, not August, but we can talk about that.
Okay.
And the final report is the property tax waiving of penalties. Julia.
Okay, so as you're aware, we did implement some interim measures when the pandemic started, where we deferred the interest and penalties on the interim payment for property taxes. So as things are beginning to open and we're getting through the different stages of the reopening plan, we did meet with the Muskoka treasurers about ending the penalty and interest waiving, and the group did decide that the waiving period should now be ended, that it's appropriate to end it. We did look at other municipalities and other municipal organizations, and most have already ended or are scheduled to end their deferrals due to the pandemic. It is important to note that there are several programs that have been set up for individuals and businesses to assist them during during this time to help them mitigate the impacts of COVID. There's the federal programs, the provincial programs as well. The District of Muskoka also had partnered with Community Futures for the loan program. And we would want to keep working with taxpayers so that we don't want taxpayers to accumulate large amounts of property taxes in their accounts. We want to set up payment plans with them so we can make sure that they're being successful in getting those paid down so that they're not accumulating into large unmanageable amounts. So that is what we're recommending.
Okay, thanks for that. Questions from council? Councillor Stone.
Well, I just have some thoughts that I'd just like to share. That I worry about kicking the can down the road, because the pile at the end of the road might be insurmountable once, you know, if we keep allowing people to push it down too far. I also worry that there's still a lot of people out of work. And so I don't know how I feel about this.
Julia, did you want to respond?
Sorry, I just forgot a couple of comments that I just wanted to say. I just want to note that Bracebridge did end theirs. They had a meeting on Monday, so they have decided to end their deferral. And I also did check with our staff, and we've had one question about whether we were going to extend it, and that's been all. The activity that we've been seeing is very normal compared to other years.
Councillor Withey.
Thank you, Your Worship. As we spoke in a previous meeting, I don't support this. I think that there are people that are out of work and still struggling. And I think that even though it's not a huge difference complete, like overall, I think that it makes a difference to people who are not getting incomes coming in right now. And it's a small thing that we can do, and I think it's important to extend this period at this time. I don't believe that we should stop it, and I certainly don't. It doesn't, you know, what other municipalities do, that's their business. I don't think we have to follow other people just because they do it. We have to do it too. That's my position. I won't be supporting removal of the waiving of penalties at this time. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could just ask Julia, there was a reference to taxes paid this year compared to last year, and it doesn't, in fact, it looks comparable, right? There wasn't a big change. If anything, more people paid taxes. Am I correct in reading that?
Yeah, it's very similar to previous years, and I think the other municipalities are experiencing that as well, like within Muskoka.
So if I may follow up, then it seems the approach that you're suggesting might be the right one, in the sense that if there are people who are experiencing the issues that Councillor Withey is referring to, then we can sit down with them and work something out. As we were able to do before. But it doesn't look like we're being inundated with a lot of people who really benefited from this, right?
Yeah, and as I said, we've had one phone call about it, and it just, we don't seem to be getting any negative feedback on it.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Alcock asked my question, and that's the answer that I guess we had anticipated. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I sort of agree with Councillor Stone in that we don't want to keep piling debt onto people either. It makes it easy to you know, to let that pile up, and we don't want to see people down the road in an area they actually can't pay. So I'm a little torn that way as well. But as long as we're a municipality that works with individuals that come in and say they can't pay, then I think that I'm okay with the position we're at now. So there isn't a resolution. It just means that we're not extending the penalty waiving fee. There's no resolution attached to this unless somebody wanted to put anything on the table to consider. Councillor Withey?
Thank you. I'm confused. Why is this not something we decide on? It's just given that this is going to happen and we don't vote. I don't understand.
Well, we waived the penalty until July 31st. So July 31st is coming up. Unless we extend that, that's the end date for late fees.
So I would move to extend it, I guess, if I don't know if there's any support for that, but certainly I feel it's an important thing to do for our community. And you'll have to tell me what the rules are as far as walking on a motion or bringing a motion next meeting or something.
We would have to have a seconder, and we would have to have 2/3 agreement to entertain the motion. You can do a notice of motion for the July council meeting without having a 2/3 vote. That's still before July 31st. So you have to get 2/3 agreement to do it today, but you can put it forward to the clerk to bring up at the July council meeting.
I think that's the option I would prefer.
Okay. Good. All right. Boy, that was not bad. We're down to general information, and so in COVID update, obviously, I don't think there's anybody that's unaware of the biggest news, and that was the health unit declaring that masks are now required in public indoors in public spaces, and that was issued under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Goes into effect this Monday. I think the big thing has been that they're required, it applies to indoors. It's hoped that compliance will be achieved through education and best efforts as opposed to through fines, but fines could be levied. A business may choose to serve you without a mask, or they may choose to refuse you service without a mask. So that's their choice too. Certainly, it's my hope that our community chooses to protect each other by following the best practices, and that includes masks indoors, hand washing, social distancing. So that's pretty much the only COVID update I have. I did want to let council know a couple of things, though, a couple of actually good news stories, and we have lots in our community. Councillor Armour and I met with Dr. Lowell Grebe from the Sport Lab in the Civic Square last week to officially acknowledge the Save Station. Hopefully everybody's seen it. Hopefully we never have to use it, but it's there, and we definitely thank Lowell for that, and all the first responders, being fire, paramedics, and OPP, who participate in that run to support it. Another thing I wanted to let council know about is I received an email from Helen Bastido, who, along with a group of community members, asked if they could transplant some of their own garden perennials into Flag Park because it was looking a little rough. And we said, certainly you could. And Tricia Aldridge from our staff helped to facilitate that. And those perennials are planted up there in Flag Park now in a nice addition. So that's the kind of community we have. And if everybody saw a Doppler yesterday, you've also then seen the new docks down in our waterfront. And Jan Nyquist and Pipe Fusion and your whole team, we thank you very much for that. That was an amazing donation in addition to the docks that we commissioned you to put in. Our waterfront is spectacular now and holds more boats than it previously did too. So that's the community we live in. So kind of good news stories. Is there any new business from any other council members? Councillor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Not really new business. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the COVID-19 and the mandatory wearing masks. I just want people not to become complacent because that can happen. And remember that good hand hygiene is just as important as wearing your mask. So just be careful out there and protect each other.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just make one comment with regards to the order that came down from Dr. Gardner. And it was pretty obvious at our district council meeting on Monday that everyone, I think just about everybody on that council was looking for direction from Dr. Gardner, and grateful, I think, that we did receive it that way, because what it did prevent from happening was each municipality in Muskoka, or as any members of the Simcoe Muskoka unit, each passing individual bylaws, and this way there's no concern about them not meshing, type of thing, that we would have a different one than Georgian Bay or Lake of Bays, that kind of thing. This way everybody's on the same playing field, and so I think that was really reassuring, what we heard from Dr. Gardner on Tuesday. Just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you for that too. CAO Corey, did you have something?
If I can just add to that piece with respect to the bylaws, Dr. Gardner did obviously want to do a unified approach so that it was consistent across the area. He has indicated in his letter that we received, though, that local bylaws supporting his decision would be helpful, because his instruction at this time is only binding while the provincial emergency declaration is in place. If the emergency declaration is removed, he still has the authority to provide additional restrictions. So there is that opportunity, but I think it's important to note that the mandatory wearing of masks by Dr. Gardner is only in place until such time as the emergency declaration is removed. And then further action would have to be taken by him or by local municipalities. So we can certainly have further discussions on whether the municipalities in the District of Muskoka are interested in passing a bylaw. I think there might be a discussion at the district council meeting, but I just wanted to make sure that council was aware that it's all well and good and in order until such time as the emergency declaration is removed and further action is taken. Thank you.
And which I think that has just been extended to July 22nd. I wonder if we might direct you to talk with the CAOs, in particular the district CAO, because this is the most confusing subject ever, but it seems that at the district level, we talked about if we were to do a bylaw, it would be nice to do it district-wide too. So maybe if you could initiate that conversation with the other CAOs and the district CAO, we could probably get that done before the 22nd then at district level.
I would, through your worship, appreciate some direction. We do have an area CAO meeting at 3:30 today where this is a topic of discussion. I think there's a sense that there's huge value to having it at the district level. I also know that there's conversations taking place that since this mandatory rule has been put in place by the health unit, that's where the authority should lie. And it might get a little muddied if area municipalities start passing bylaws, because then there's the question of who's going to enforce and who's responsible for it. So if that's the direction I've given, I'd be happy to discuss that today.
Yeah, that's good. You got that with just a thumbs up. Councilor Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to reinforce that. I mean, when we discussed it at district last week or Monday, whenever it was, Monday, I guess, we even had a proposed motion on the table, which we decided to table until the next day. So I think there's a ton of support around the district table to go that route, just for the, as you said, CAO Corey, about consistency and all of that. It needs to be a coordinated approach and not piecemeal. So my read on Monday was there's lots of support at district for a district bylaw. So I just thought I'd add that.
Okay, Council. I have a resolution moved by Councilor Schumacher, seconded by Councilor Alcock. It is recommended that we do now adjourn at 11:10 a.m. All in favor? And that carries.